Welcome back. It is day 5 of the pelvic floor challenge, our last day. Today, I saved the best for last. We're going to be working with the squat. Now, a lot of people have heard that the squat is a replacement for Kegels. You may be wondering whether or not it really is. And the answer is, I don't know. But I do know that squats can offer you lots of benefits in developing your glute strength and in mobilizing your joints, which is going to have a really wonderful effect on your pelvic floor, or it can. The other thing I want you to keep in mind, it's really important that we not increase the pressure on the pelvic floor when we are squatting. So if you find yourself holding your breath and bearing down, don't. I want you to make sure that you are either inhaling or exhaling as you do the squat. One of the reasons why we hold our breath and bear down is because we are recruiting that to help stabilize us, or we're using that technique to help stabilize and offer, it feels like some strength. It's not really creating more strength, but it's creating more stability, which gives us better leverage for doing our squat. However, it comes with a price of increasing the pressure on our pelvic floor. Nobody's pelvic floor needs more pressure on it, especially if you are already having pelvic floor issues. So be really mindful as you're doing these squats to not hold your breath and not bear down as you're doing them. If you are wondering whether or not you are, err on the side of caution and do a mini squat instead of the full thing. Today, what I'm going to be showing you anyway is a form of a mini squat. So we tend to sit quite a bit and get in and out of chairs quite a bit. And I'm going to show you some ways to use that to your advantage. Not so much the extended periods of sitting time, but the getting up and getting down time. So I want you to check in as we get started. You're going to have your feet a little bit wider than pelvis width apart. You can choose how wide is comfortable for you. And then the other piece I want you to check in with is that the outside edges of your feet are straight. So there's a tendency to turn it out, which feeds into the strength that we have, but bypasses the weakness that we have. So we don't end up strengthening. We don't end up bridging that gap between what's not as strong as what we need it to be. So having the outside edges of our feet straight will allow us to really hone in on asking certain muscles to participate that we bypass when we turn our feet out. The third thing, so we've got feet wider than pelvis width, and we've got outside edges of the feet straight. The third thing we're going to be paying attention to is where our knees are in relation to our ankles. So I want you to go ahead and from your seated position, I just want you to get up any way you can. Don't worry about how you're doing it. Just notice how you do it, okay? And this time, I want you to pay particular attention to where your knees are in relation to your ankles and whether or not your knees move forward as you get up out of your chair. For almost all of you, unless you've heard my spiel before about squats, the tendency is going to be, before you even get up, in fact, you're probably going to bring your feet in to help you come up, okay? So go ahead, stack your heels underneath your knees, and get up out of your chair and just see what that's like. Do you automatically bring your feet in, or do you drive your knees forward to stand up? Okay? So that's your habit. That's how you do this every time you sit down and stand up. And we're going to fine-tune that. So the time you spend getting out of a chair and sitting down into a chair can be time that works to develop strength in certain areas and ultimately benefit your pelvic floor. So I want you to see if you can stand up and decrease how much your knees go forward. So I don't want you to move your feet back at all. I want you to keep your feet right where they are. And then I want you to attempt to stand up without letting your knees move forward or with decreasing the amount they move forward. So they might move forward a little bit, but can you move them forward a little bit less than what they were doing when you weren't really trying to keep them stacked over your ankle? And you can move your torso forward. You can reach with your arms. So go ahead and stand up and just see what's it like for you to get in and out of a chair when you are trying to keep your knees stacked over your ankles. Okay? How hard is that? How easy is it? How much momentum do you have to use to get out of the chair with your arms or your torso? How much do you plop down at the bottom? And just play with that a few times. I'm going to remind you that you are breathing. You are exhaling as you do this and inhaling as you do this, not bearing down on your pelvic floor. So, if you're also watching me do this, you'll notice my knees are moving forward a little bit, and you'll notice at the bottom of my squat, I'm plopping a little bit, so I don't have the strength to maintain the control all the way to the chair, and so I'm plopping. One of the things that I recommend you do if you're really struggling with this, elevate yourself. So bring the chair up a little higher by putting maybe a phone book underneath you, or I have this stack of blocks. And it's just going to elevate you a little bit so that you can see, with the pelvis elevated, can you better maintain the parameters of knees stacked over heels and of outside edges of the feet straight and of control of your movement. So here, I can keep my shins straight and I can control myself down when I am elevated a little bit. And just notice, how much do you need to do that to help yourself? It's just about meeting your body where it is so you can develop the strength and then progress from there. So I could also take one of my blocks away and come down a little bit lower. So I'm still higher than the chair, but I'm challenging myself a little bit more to keep the shins vertical as I lower my pelvis down. I don't quite have as much control on the way down. I can keep the vertical shins. I am using a little bit of momentum with my upper body. And then lowering down. So practice this every time you come up and down out of a chair. And if not every time, because that would be somewhat unrealistic to remember to do that. See if you can start to do it a few times. Or maybe when you get on and off the toilet, because you are going to the bathroom every day, hopefully, you can use that as a cue to practice some of your squat parameters as you get off the toilet and lower down to the toilet. So the three things we're keeping track of are outside edges of the feet being relatively straight. We're keeping the feet wider than pelvis width. And we're also keeping the shins vertical, so we're keeping the knee stacked over the heel. So you may be wondering, why does it matter where your knee is in relation to your ankle? And what we're looking to do with this squat, it's not that moving the knee forward is wrong or bad. It's just decreasing the amount that the glutes need to participate when we do that. So the more the knee moves forward in relation to the ankle, the more the quads are being recruited to help out, and the less the glutes are being recruited. When we back it up and keep the shin vertical, the glutes have to do more work. And so it becomes a more glute strengthening movement. The quads are still most definitely working, so don't think that all of a sudden the glutes are doing all the work. It's never an all or nothing thing. There's never a way to really isolate only one muscle doing the job. But we want to make sure that we're getting as much juice out of our glutes, so to speak, as we can, again, for the benefits of stabilizing the pelvis and of stabilizing the sacrum, that triangular shaped bone at the bottom of your spine between the left and right halves of your pelvis. And the sacrum is a big attachment point for your pelvic floor muscles. And we want the sacrum to be nice and stable to help maintain the length of the pelvic floor muscles so that they can generate the force that they need to generate to be able to do their job well. So practice your squat. This is an exercise of looking at the strength of our glutes and how we compensate when we're doing certain movements. And it's going to help you by dialing it in and adding in these parameters. It's going to help you get that much more out of the time that you spend lifting yourself up and lowering yourself down. So have fun incorporating this into your day and enjoy the benefits. Thank you so much for joining me for this pelvic floor challenge, and I look forward to seeing you again.